The only way to finance the running of government and provide social services is through taxation. I firmly believe that a country of taxpayers is more likely than not to perform optimally. Paying tax is an ingredient of active citizenship, and we need to decide as a country whether the efforts to widen the tax net to include more citizens can succeed with the different strategies, or we are better off pivoting to tax consumption rather than income taxation.
Welcome on board flight number ATC KAD 2021 for the 23rd Annual Tax Conference of Challenge Taxation of Nigeria. Please fasten your seatbelt as the flight is about to take off.
Echoes from the 23rd Annual Tax Conference, which held in Kaduna from Tuesday the 18th to Friday the 21st of May 2021. Mrs. Fowokon was welcoming participants to the opening ceremony of the conference. On my own part, I ask you to fasten your seatbelt as we are about to take off on another exciting journey into the world of information and education on taxation. The first part of the story of the conference came to you last episode. We'll be serving you part 2 today. Also on that episode, we also shared with you how the Tax Appeal Tribunal is repositioning itself for service in a post-COVID era where technology rose. We'll continue that story on this episode. By the way, we are in June. And that means that limited liability companies with accounting year end of December 31st, 2020 have 30 more days to file their company's income tax returns and pay. This is the way it goes. Companies are free to choose their 12 months accounting year. Could be August to July of the following year. Could be April to March, or the most common, January to December. The choice is yours, except for banks who are obliged by law to use January to December. If you have chosen January to December, then you have 6 months after your accounting year ends to file returns and pay. That means June 30 of the following year. So we ask, are you ready? Are you ready? My name is Chiamaka Ohauchi and I'll be your guide on this episode. Come along.
London, New York or Lagos, business or holiday, home or office. You can now carry out your tax transactions from anywhere in the world. You can now file all your tax returns, pay online, get a receipt and even process your tax clearance certificate from anywhere in the world online and in real time. All you need to do is log on to www.firs.gov.ng and click on e-services and be introduced to the world of innovation, convenience and transparency from the FIRS. You can also pay stamp duty as you register a new company with the CAC or for other transactions that require stamp duty payment online. You can also file your withholding tax returns and determine the withholding tax deducted from you is in government covers so that you can get your receipt within 45 days as long as the deduction has been remitted. Yes, all of this and more online at www.firs.gov.ng/e-services. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC. Please note that all FIRS services are free of charge. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It pays to pay your tax.
Welcome once again. The Tax Appeal Tribunal is the first line of external mechanism for dispute resolution in tax matters. Operational in 8 zones of Nigeria, the Tax Appeal Tribunal is quasi-court where disputes are resolved on the basis of law and facts, but free nevertheless from legal technicalities. COVID-19 has changed the way things are done all over the world, even as we are yet to get out of the woods. To equip it to be on top of its game and satisfy parties to dispute, the TAT has been working assiduously to put in place a system that will suit the new way or ways of doing things. Between Thursday the 29th and Friday the 30th of April 2021, the TAT held a retreat for its zonal commissioners, zonal secretaries and stakeholders. The retreat had as its theme Tax Appeal Tribunal in Changing Times. As we said in the introduction, we already told you part of the story on our last episode. We want to serve you more today. The opening ceremony was graced with the attendance of personalities including the Federal Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, the Attorney General of the Federation, and the Executive Chairman FRS, who were duly represented. There were also representations from professional bodies and the business community. Hajiya Fatima Hayatu, Director Technical Services at the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, who stood in for the Minister and the Permanent Secretary, declared the retreat open.
This retreat with the theme Tax Appeal in Times of Change is very apt, especially in the era of post-COVID-19 pandemic and the need to conduct virtual proceedings or access multi-door dispute resolution.
Goodwill messages were delivered by NASIMA, the CITN, NBA, ANAN, and ICANN. The opening ceremony was also used as an opportunity to recognize persons who have in one way or the other contributed to the success of the TAT from inception, including past coordinating secretaries and staff. In the course of the two-day retreat, several papers were presented with a view to building the capacity of the tribunal chairmen and commissioners.
When you read through the Finance Act of 2020, you see that that act set out to clarify ambiguous provisions of various tax statutes. One other thing that also drove the enactment of the act is the fact that Nigeria was losing a lot of revenue because a lot of our tax laws were so outmoded that they were not fitted for the sophistication we see in contemporary commercial arrangements. So take the taxation of companies that operate in the digital space, for example. Up until the enactment of the Finance Act 2020, if you wanted to know whether a company, a non-resident company, was liable to tax in Nigeria, you had to go to Section 13.2. And those provisions relate only to physical presence, where a non-resident company is carrying on business in Nigeria and has some kind of physical presence. So the realization that commerce has moved far beyond, physical activities in a particular jurisdiction was one of the things that drove the changes that we saw in the Finance Act of 2020. The other one is just a clarification, So Nigerian companies that are engaged in export-oriented businesses, they enjoy a tax benefit. When they make proceeds from their export activities, if they deploy those proceeds to purchase raw materials, equipment and spare parts, the law says that they would not be required to pay tax on the portion of the proceeds that was so deployed. Now, what the Finance Act 2019 has done is to bring a bit more clarity on the point, to say that for those companies, there will be pro rata application of tax on any portion that is not utilized to purchase either raw materials, equipment, or spare parts.
Why are we having this discussion? What is the problem? Because the fact that disputes exist, that's not the problem in and of itself. Because in any system where there's respect for the rule of law, then there should be an avenue to challenge decisions that we're not comfortable with or that we believe are wrong. So having tax disputes is not the problem. The problem is in certain jurisdictions where the tax litigation becomes so excessive that it diminishes efficiency. And that arises from one of three problems. There's a high volume of litigation challenging tax assessments. The second issue is concerned with the system. There's a delay in resolving those disputes. And the third element could be a lack of judicial capacity. So you can have in jurisdictions either not enough judges or not enough judges with expertise. And either one or a combination of all these three can lead to excessive tax litigation, and that's a problem for two reasons. For the state, it delays the collection of tax revenue, so there's a direct impact on the revenue of the government of the Federation. For the parties, it diminishes confidence in the tax system because it's perceived as being uncertain and inefficient. And in the establishment of the Tax Appeal Tribunal, I think the federal government was alive to this, but I took this directly from the TAT website. And part of the tribunal's executive brief is to minimize the delays and bottlenecks in the adjudication of tax matters from the traditional court system, improve taxpayers' confidence in our tax system, and I'm skipping forward a bit, promote early and speedy determination of matters without compromising the principle of equity and fairness. Okay, so the TAT was established in and of itself as an alternative to the traditional court system because there was a recognition that that court system was inefficient.
Also on hand to examine after tax appeal, what next, was Honorable Justice Taiwo O. Taiwo of the Federal High Court of Nigeria, while Mr. Gabriel Ogunjemolisi of the FRS brought the retreat participants up to speed on taxation of oil and gas in Nigeria.
So I think we have a lot of cases before TAT on oil and gas, and of recent we are getting a lot of I think better understanding and good judgment that is helping us to develop the tax practice. I really appreciate that, and I know as we are going on more and more, we'll get better. The PIB is in focus, and very soon, as last week, Thursday and Friday, we treated the clause-by-clause consultation with the Joint Committee of the House, Senate and the House in Lagos on the PIB. So hopefully, the PIB will come on board very soon, and it's going to help us to bring more investment to Nigeria in the oil and gas industry. For the past almost 12 or 15 years, investment in the industry has been very low. And that is part of what is accounting for the low revenue that we are having in the country.
Barrister Emmanuel Eze, also of the FRS, presented a paper on BEPS, base erosion and profit shifting, and the fight against harmful tax practices in Nigeria.
In the realm of tax avoidance, especially related to multinational enterprises, they have a large planning opportunities, options, which I put in baskets and refer to as base erosion and profit shifting schemes. These schemes enables multinational to use their nature and their structure as multinational to erode base erosion of developing countries like Nigeria, minimize their taxes, and in some instances avoid taxes completely. I try to put a little case study to illustrate how BEPS operate in the fields. Number one is team capitalization. A foreign company desirous of doing business in Nigeria decide to fund its subsidiary with 90% debt and 10% equity. This is a classical case of team capitalization. It's loading the local subsidiary with debt because of the preferential treatment that is given to interest as compared to dividend which flows from equity. And by so doing, the local subsidiary for the foreseeable future, its profit will be streamed to Bermuda or to Panama, wherever, where it is subject to little or no tax at all. The second instance is on treaty shopping. Nigeria do not have tax treaty with United States, but most United States-based enterprises, they do business in Nigeria and routing such businesses through Netherlands because we have tax treaty with Netherlands. They do the scheming using the tax treaty shopping option, which they could do because there's a loophole in the existing international framework today that enables them to do that.
The capacity building continued on day 2 with another senior advocate of Nigeria, Malam Abdul Mohammed, speaking about virtual or remote hearing, coping with challenges of changing times. while Mr. Matthew Bojumbola examined emerging issues in transfer pricing. Still on the intellectual lane, Dr. Olumide Obayemi of the University of Lagos spoke on taxation of the digital economy and the challenges of e-commerce. Mr. Lanre Akinshola had the singular honor of wrapping up the two-day session by his review and discussion of the papers presented and laying out a strategic action plan for the TAT going forward. At the end of it all, a communique was issued. The retreat resolved that, following the amendment of the FRS Act in the Finance Act 2020, virtual hearing has become an integral part of TAT procedures and that steps should be taken to put in place legal framework for its operation. The need for the autonomy of the TAT was canvassed, and it was proposed that it should ultimately evolve into a specialized task court. And finally, the TAT is to set up a rules review committee to review the TAT rules and make recommendations for consideration. For broader perspectives on the outcome of the retreat, Tax Matters spoke to some of the zonal tribunal chairmen.
So I would like to know how your zone, the Tax Appeal Tribunal of your zone, is doing, especially during this period of the pandemic.
Usually we take maybe 4 or 5 cases a day, but because of COVID-19 and the protocols that we have as the Tax Appeal Tribunal, we had to reduce, our sitting, so that we are able to manage the exposure of our members and even the parties. Yeah, so in a way, that has affected the hearing of appeals. But in terms of people still filing appeals, definitely people are still filing appeals. Parties are still bringing their issues before the tribunal. So our activities are still on, except for the period that there was total lockdown. But since there has been the ease in lockdown, the tribunal has been working.
Now, we would like to know if the Finance Act, that of 2019 and 2020, has impacted or helped the Tax Appeal Tribunal in tax dispute resolution.
That of 2020 has amended the FRS Act to introduce virtual hearing. So in appropriate cases, the tribunal can hear people from their locations, especially when they apply for it or we think it is necessary. So it has helped in that direction.
What are the advantages of coming to the Tax Appeal Tribunal?
Let me start with the first one. We don't apply discretion. We apply the law. If you meet one person in a tax office, he can give you his personal view about the law. In the tribunal, there are 5 members, and these 5 members include lawyers and accountants and tax consultants. So when we sit as a 5-man panel, what A does not see, B will see it. That brings a lot of advantage because our experiences vary and we bring it to bear. Number 3, we are practically independent, even though we are not autonomous by law, but we are not influenced by the tax authorities. We've taken many decisions that show that the tax authorities lost and they appealed. So that's to tell if we are being controlled, they cannot lose cases. We don't engage in technicalities and frivolities. We go into the meat of the matter and ensure that the rights of the parties are determined. And at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation.
We are speedy. We have the necessary expertise. Your matters are, dealt with by people who are knowledge-based. We don't believe in technicalities. We don't believe in the traditions that you find with the regular court, and we don't allow unnecessary delays. In fact, we give you, a number of adjournments that you can take. And then once you exhaust it, if you are not ready to proceed, if you are the taxpayer, we'll simply just throw out your case. And if you are the tax authority, then we'll enter judgment against you. So you will find that we deal with our matters expeditiously. And then you are also assured that the person who is dealing with your matter is somebody who is an expert in that area. There is a saying that 2 heads are better than 1. And we are talking about 5 brilliant, experienced heads, taking your matter. You can't get it any better. You can't.
So I would like to know how your zone is doing, especially at this period of the pandemic.
Last year was a bit was challenging. So we had to shut down. In fact, the country had to shut down literally. But when we resumed, I think from last time when we resumed to now, we have a lot of cases. Presently, I think we have about 7, 8 or more cases from the after we resumed from the lockdown to date. So we've been having several cases because we have been having sensitization visits and talks with the general public within our zone. We have made a lot of sensitization. So that has assisted us in getting a lot of cases. Formerly, we had cases only from Kaduna and Kano, but now we have more from Kaduna, more from Kano, new ones from Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara axis. And I'm just been told that we have another one from Katsina.
Finally, sir, what are your takeaways from this retreat?
Well, very much organized, very rich, very deep, and very stimulating. It has been stimulating. The reason for such retreats is to make you have new ideas, to interact, and then learn new processes, and then get more perspective on things. And I think it has been good. And my takeaway is that I have been more enlightened and more educated on what all of us have, more enlightened, more educated on the regiments of our job and what is expected to us as we go back to our various stations.
The South Zone of the Tax Appeal Tribunal has been a very vibrant one. Although we had to shut down for about 3 months during the lockdown last year, immediately we came back, we had more cases. Presently, I think we have about 20 plus cases on us. Virtually everybody is involved in virtual hearing now, so that is nothing new, and I'm sure that we are also partially electronic. It means, for instance, when we are at the Tax Appeal Tribunal, we don't do a lot of writing. We do recordings, so that is part of. We are already partly electronically biased. So I think going forward, we'll just build on that and then make sure that the tax appeal system, the TAT, becomes more and more electronic. The catchword is a new normal. That's after COVID. People will not have to travel as much, and that will also impact on us positively because, each of the tribunals is constituted of commissioners that come from different places. So when we are looking at the new adaptations that are coming through the new normal, we see that all of them, they work together for a forward-looking TAT that will be more vibrant to serve Nigeria better.
Time, oh time. That second part of the story of the 23rd Annual Tax Conference, which we promised at the beginning, we will have to wait. In the meantime, let us inform you with great delight that new council members have emerged on the council of the CITN, just as the Institute has also conferred fellowship on 203 members of the Institute. And of course, on Saturday the 5th of June, Mr. Adeshino Adedayo will be stepping into office as the 15th President of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. You have the right to look forward to these stories on coming episodes of Tax Matters. Thank you for watching today's episode of Tax Matters. Let's do this again next week. Bye for now.